Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. What is the deal with the online hate for David Haye and David Haye's what seems to be hate for Tyson Fury? We know Tyson Fury, at this point in his career, doesn't seem to have anything horrible to say about David Haye, but at the same time, David Haye doesn't seem to be one of David Haye's largest fans. But just thinking about David Haye and Tyson Fury and their history, several years back when David Haye was kind of, in his prime, but very injury prone, he and Tyson Fury were supposed to fight. And the fight was called off. David Haye had just, come out of a shoulder surgery and had a cut over his eye, requiring 6 inches that he suffered in sparring. Tyson Fury, went on to call him, a cat, but it used another word. So he had a few colorful adjectives to describe David Haye pulling out the fight. Peter Fury said he never thought the fight would come off. They felt like David Haye never really wanted to fight. And it seemed like that has just, over the years, just kind of snowballed into a kind of circus as far as the commentary from Haye and Fury. Now, to be fair, it does seem at times when David Haye's asked about Tyson Fury, it's hard for him to say something positive. But I will tell you this, he seems to be fair most of the time. He just has an opinion. When Tyson Fury was getting ready to fight Otto Wallin, which to me, Otto Wallin gave Tyson Fury an extremely hard fight, and he cut him. David Haye went on record before the fight and said he felt Fury would have no problem outboxing and getting Otto Wallin out of there within 6. At the end of the fight, after Tyson Fury had suffered the horrible cut, gash really, above his eye, David Haye said Tyson Fury gutted it out and basically praised him for keeping his composure and still finding a way to win. Now, I will tell you, myself and a lot of others felt, had that been another fighter in the ring, they would have stopped the fight, because that cut over Tyson Fury's, I think it was his right eye, was synonymous to what the cut that Badu Jack had in the middle of his forehead. Very, very similar as far as just the degree of the depth and just width. Just what's his name? Badu Jack's was more vertical, and Tyson Fury's was more, horizontal. But so when it comes to that, he was fair when it came to Otto Wallin. Now, when it came to Tyson Fury and Tyson Fury fighting Deontay Wilder, he did feel that Deontay Wilder would get Tyson Fury out of there. You can't fault Haye for feeling that way, because a lot of other people felt that way. And some people say that David Haye's just hating on him. I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of people just don't like David Haye. And I'll get to that in a second. But anyway, they went to the first fight, and what happened happened. Going to the second fight, David Haye still felt that Deontay Wilder was going to come out there and do something amazing. He had the power. Remember, Deontay Wilder and David Haye sparred numerous rounds. There's some clips out there on the internet where it shows what David Haye did to Deontay Wilder. But when David Haye spoke of Deontay Wilder, he always talked about how hard he hit, just how great of an athlete he was, about how he had more boxing skill than what he's given credit for. Nevertheless, the second fight between Fury and Wilder happened, and we know what happened in that fight. David Haye even went on to say he still gives Wilder a chance in the third fight, and we know what happened in the third fight. So fast forward to where we were this week with Dillian Whyte and Fury. Now, 95% of the people felt Fury would win that fight. I know I did. Dillian Whyte had a chance if he fought the right fight, but it wasn't going to be easy. It was not going to be easy. Hold on a second. It was not going to be easy. Gotta close the door, man. But the fight was not, and I don't edit things out because I'm human, okay? And I have little kids and they make noise and it doesn't bother me. But when it comes to Dillian White, you know, he had a chance. And a lot of people said it. But David Haye, again, and to my surprise, he was siding with Dillian White to win the fight. And, you know, Big John Fury was just tired because I guess he feels like David Haye's just a hater. He never gives Tyson the respect he deserves, the credit he deserves. And I think a lot of frustration from Tyson Fury's team. I think a lot of boxing fans and some of the people there in the UK just feel like ever since David Haye pulled out of that fight with Tyson Fury, with the excuses and knowing he's not healthy knowing he wasn't healthy going to the fight with Tony Bellew, and always making excuses after losses, I think people are just over David Haye. Now, that leads me into why so much hate for David Haye. I mean, when I think about David Haye, right, I don't see why somebody would dislike him. You know, extremely athletic, in great shape for his fights, exciting cruiserweight, exciting heavyweight, big puncher, you know, a handsome guy, nice personality, it seems. What is the issue? But some people think he's very pretentious. Some people feel he's too obnoxious, too arrogant. Some people feel he doesn't give credit to his opponents when he's been defeated. And some people feel he just has a chip on his shoulder and think he's better than others. And when I sit back and look at that, for me, sitting in my position, I'm not. I don't know if I see that. You know, David Haye is very supportive of Amir Khan. That's his friend. He seemed to have spoke positively for the most part about his fellow UK boxers. And but then again, I'm not over in the UK. There's a lot of things we just don't see over here stateside. But there's just I just don't fully understand why people would just totally hate David Haye. I mean, it always seems to be a situation where someone has something negative to say. Now, it could go back even further when David Haye was looking for that fight with Klitschko. Well, both Klitschko, either one of the brothers, and he did that image of him holding their heads and stuff like that. You know, the Klitschko definitely didn't like it, and they felt like he went too far. It could be that when he did get a shot to fight Vladimir, he got in there, and you know, he didn't look horrible, but he was afraid to take chances, which I think he would have knocked Vladimir out if he took more chances. But at the end, he took off his shoes, showing that his toe was a sore toe or something wrong with his pinky toe. I don't know. And that just didn't help him. He's never been able to escape that, and it keeps coming up. But I think that hurt him as well. I think that's where the hate really started from for David Haye. But I'm not 100% sure about that. And, you know, people just talking about David Haye just, you know, is being arrogant and always making excuses. And just knowing that he was injured going into fights, but talking up a good game just so he can get the fights and the big paydays, even though he knew it wasn't much of a chance of him winning unless he landed a big shot. Now, I tend to believe there may be some validity to that. I could definitely see that, because even with the Bellew fights, he came out talking about the injuries he had and stuff like that. So why would you go into a fight knowing you weren't 100%? That's because maybe he underestimated Bellew and thought he could beat him. But the second fight, kind of a similar thing. So we know his body wasn't able to respond the way he was saying it would be, because he was, you know, at that time dealing with injuries, and he wasn't 100% physically. But he was an exceptional fighter in his prime, a legit #1 in his division worldwide. And I think the best division for him was definitely at cruiserweight. But he did, because of his raw athleticism and power, he did make some noise at heavyweight, and he gave a lot of people hell. And in his prime, he would give anyone hell, man. But if you know something that I don't know about David Haye, man, you know, I'm still not really understanding why they get him at so much hate. I understand the issue with Chisora. You know, at the press conference, Haye was always talking, and then I understand what happened there, and Chisora, rushed down at him, which is a mistake in my opinion. Chisora shouldn't have done that, and David Haye did what I think anybody would do. Chisora wasn't coming down there to have a tickling contest with him. Chisora was coming down there with the intent on, like Dylan White says, maximum violence, and that's what took place. Haye got the best of him, and he got the best of his coach, and I think that kind of left a sour taste in some people's mouth too. But David Haye said, he's not going to let any man think they're going to hit him and he won't hit them back. So he believed in standing his ground, and he wasn't he wasn't afraid to mix it up. But there's some people who felt like he was just annoyingly boring, and he had an underwhelming career. And I don't think that, but they keep talking about his injuries and how David Haye robbed him of a fight between him and Fury, and he was a victim of his own hype as a result of his big mouth. And I don't know, man. I don't get it, but he seemed to be all right to me. But I know he had become #1 at cruiserweight after beating this guy named Mormick and Maka, and went on the hunt for some more opponents. But he managed to trap Vlad on an elevator, and that's where I think things happen with all, berating him and really making Vladimir uncomfortable, calling him a boring world champion, just insulting him, and promising to knock those guys out, the Klitschko's and heavyweights. And of course, he hyped himself up real good, but the hype was unreal, and it just never came to fruition what he said would. And I just think him fighting Monty Barrett and meeting Valuev and saying insulting things about Valuev. Valuev suffered from gigantism. So as far as a hairy body and the large forehead and just the overgrowth of the skull, it wasn't Valuev's fault that he had that appearance. But David Haye, marketing, trying to sell the fight, he said some really harsh things, but from what little bit I do understand, it sounds like the straw that kind of broke the camel's back was a fight against Harrison, and Harrison wasn't even the best at a domestic level. It was a terrible, challenger, a terrible opponent. And then Haye spent 2 rounds kind of screwing off in that fight just to knock him out, and they felt that Harrison wasn't a worthy opponent. So I just think that people are just what they wanted from David Haye, the excitement they had for him, the expectation they had for him. He just never kind of lived up to the hype. But I think people are forgetting about what he did at cruiserweight and that he did move up. And you know what? There's only one Evander Holyfield. And what we're looking at right now with Usyk, it seems to be only one Usyk. And we'll see if Usyk is going to be able to go on, defeat Joshua a second time, and then take on Fury, hopefully, and get that undisputed distinction. But as far as David Haye, just a lot of people don't like him, man. And I've never met him. Don't know much about him except his father Jamaican, mother's English, from England. And seemed like an alright guy to me. But I just know a lot of people don't fancy him. And obviously, there's got to be something to it. So anyone here that's part of the community, if you're familiar with from the UK out in the area, know more about David Haye, more than just the information we can find in videos, more than just the information we can find in articles. Shed some light on what the issue is with David Haye. Kind of understand the issue with him and Fury. He does kind of seem to be hating on Fury a little bit to me, but give Fury his credit. Like there's nothing else. There's nothing else that I can't see anybody say anything bad about Fury. What more do you want this man to do? Can't keep dwelling in the past. That's over. The mistakes he made and the comments he made. Even David Haye has made some horrible comments, about gang rapes and stuff like that. Although he wasn't talking about the act, but he was just talking about how the fight would be as one-sided as that. So he said some horrible things. But at some point now, we gotta quit faulting Tyson Fury for whatever he did years ago. And also quit faulting David Haye for what he did years ago. But if there's more to the story, especially than what I can see or what I can find on the internet, then shed some light, because normally when you're there in the, domestically, you get a bit more information, and you're privy to a lot more than what we are when we're just having the results of getting on the computer and looking things up. But just not sure, because no, it seems like when you go online, there's so much hate towards this man, and I don't fully understand it, and I would like to. So that being said, David Haye, I think you should give Tyson Fury some credit. Y'all stop voting against Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury fights Ngannou, and especially with just those MMA gloves, I think definitely I'll be picking Ngannou to win and knock him out, especially if they allow a little bit of wrestling, like what Triller is doing. If they allow that kind of hybrid boxing match / a little bit of grappling, you can hit with your loose hand. I just think that's going to favor Ngannou. That's not Tyson Fury's style. You know, he can wrap you up and stuff like that, but with a guy like Ngannou, who's way stronger than Tyson Fury, he's not going to be able to use that reach to wrap him up. It's going to be a problem. So, so going forward, we'll see. But long story short, leave your comments below. Let me know what's the real issue with David Haye and all the online hate. And is it fair, or has he earned that hate from so many people in the boxing, in and out the boxing community? Is he that much of a complicated personality that it's the way they perceive him? Is that warranted? Leave your comments below and let me know. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Shout out to all the veterans, and as always, I'm in the breeze.